Welcome to episode number 3 of Social Business Engine. I'm your host, Bernie Borges. I am super excited about this episode. But before we get started, I want to remind you that you can follow the conversation online with the hashtag SBEShow on Twitter, Google+, Instagram, and Facebook. On this episode, you're going to witness a tag team approach that will impress and inspire you. My co-host on this episode is Mike Lemire, who's an inbound marketing consultant at HubSpot. Mike works very closely with today's guest. In fact, he's very instrumental in the success of today's guest. But Mike isn't just an awesome inbound marketing social business dude. Mike is also a singer. Mike sings with the Boston Symphony Orchestra and the Boston Pops. Mike, thanks for co-hosting and sponsoring this episode of the Social Business Engine.
It's an absolute pleasure to be here, Bernie, and if all goes well, maybe I'll sing a little bit later for you.
All right, we'll see about that, Mike. Well, my guest today is Dan Moyle from Amerifirst Home Mortgage, a regional mortgage lender based in Southwest Michigan. Dan is a marketing specialist. Now, prior to joining Amerifirst, Dan spent 9 years in journalism at a TV newsroom, and boy, has those skills come in handy, as you will learn today. Now, Dan's not all work. He is a longtime biker, a blended family dad, and a big fan of all things Michigan. Dan, welcome to the Social Business Engine.
Thanks, Bernie. It's my pleasure to be here with you and Mike today. I'm excited.
All right, awesome. Well, Dan, let's get right to it. Let's start with my favorite question. Where is Amerifirst Home Mortgage on the social business journey?
You know, I think we're comfortably far along, but not nearly far enough, I guess. We're pretty savvy when it comes to social media and how we use it, and being a social business and being everything that, like what you talk about as far as getting the support from up high, you know, measuring results. We do all of that, so we're feeling pretty comfortable with that. But there, you know, as with anything, it's a journey. It's not a destination, and so we're definitely not totally there yet. So, but I think we're feeling pretty good.
Dan, one of the things that really impressed me when I was working with you on your social business journey was your inclusion of personas in your marketing efforts, specifically with your understanding of Pinterest. Can you talk a little bit about how you developed the personas for Amerifirst?
Yeah, the personas are so important when it comes to marketing in general, but especially any kind of other business decisions you make, really. You know, as a social business, knowing who your customers are, who your potential customers are, is a vital move, I think, that we tend to overlook and not necessarily do purposefully. And so for us, creating these personas started with ideas about who do we typically see as our different kinds of home buyers, and then going out and talking to the sales team and saying, okay, is this the kind of person that you see normally? Does this person sound familiar? Can you put a face to this kind of a description? And really figuring out who it is that we want to reach based on who we've reached in the past, and then looking at, you know, who can we reach beyond that, as well as, you know, if we've always reached, let's say, and this isn't necessarily true, but if we've always reached 18 to 24-year-old males, how do we reach 24 to 30-year-old females, and this kind of thing when it comes to home buyers? So I think, you know, our journey on personas, while it certainly feels good, we still have a lot, like, again, that's one of our, I think, where we have a long ways to go. But anyway, so you asked about Pinterest.
Right.
You know, we decided a while ago to invest a little bit of time in Pinterest. You know, when the next shiny object comes, I always go, okay, let's see how we can use this somehow. And I started looking into Pinterest, and my first thought was, it's very visual, it's very user-oriented. Nobody cares about mortgages. They're not flashy pictures or anything else. But what we started talking about here at the office was, it may not be the mortgage that we're talking about, but anything to do with the home. You know, home pictures are widely shared on Pinterest. And so I began to tinker with that a little bit, and I created several boards for mortgage products, like a rural development loan or a renovation loan. But I created boards mostly based on what people want to see. Design my dream home. really cool kitchen remodels, cool home designs, do-it-yourself home decor. So all these kinds of things, and just begin to offer social content based on those and based on our buyers.
Can I just ask Dan, because I know Mike, you've worked real closely with Dan. That's why you're on this episode, right? Which is awesome, and you know so much about their strategy. I even said in the introduction that this is a tag team. You've contributed to Amerifirst's success and everything that Dan's doing there. But I can't help but wonder, and I speculate that people that are watching or listening to this episode are wondering, how can a mortgage company use Pinterest and actually measure results? Can you address that, Dan?
Yeah, we measure results by referral traffic. As with any social media, you can measure that referral traffic as far as views coming from that, and then from there, we use specific tools to then measure from views to lead conversion and from leads to customers, this kind of thing. And so, yeah, we measure traffic, we measure leads, we measure all of that from Pinterest. And I can see on our analytics tools that, when I started to really concentrate on offering Pinterest-related material on our blog, we began to get quite a bit of traffic. So I guess that's one of the things, is that if you're going to use Pinterest, certainly share other people's pictures and do everything that everybody else does and pin this and pin that. But for me, the bigger philosophy was more, how do I use my website to make it Pinterest friendly, so to speak?
And those tools were really important. The analysis that Dan did, that's one of the things that we worked on. Dan, you kind of alluded to the fact that you tend to head towards the shiny new object, and Pinterest was one of those things. And we used data to decide how much time we should be spending in that specific social media outlet. And initially, the enthusiasm of it and the excitement that we were actually converting mortgage customers from Pinterest overtook us, and we wanted to spend a little more time inside of Pinterest. Eventually, when taking a look at the data, we decided some of the more traditional inbound marketing methods of blogging and more conventional offers did perform better. So while Pinterest was working, we kind of had to roll back the amount of time we were spending on Pinterest. Just to get back to the persona element, one of the things that Dan, you alluded to that was really special for me when we were working on this was the fact that you didn't just take the demographics of the persona, but also the psychographics of the persona that you were working into consideration when creating that content. So thinking about the persona specific to that social media outlet as well. The persona of a Pinterest user, very DIY focused, and that's what content you created in order to convert those visitors who were coming to your site from Pinterest.
Yeah, the data is so important, and Bernie, you had asked about the data, and Mike just alluded to it too, that we use the data for everything. We use analytics to do everything, and so those tools are very important, and fortunately I have some good tools at my fingertips.
That's awesome. Well, again, to your point, you're data-driven, you're analyzing your personas, not only from a demographics, as Mike points out, but also from a psychographic standpoint. Now, I want to be aware of our time together here today, and we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about your extensive use of video content. So Dan, why don't you speak to how you guys use video content? And I alluded in my introduction of you that your experience in the TV newsroom has come in handy. So why don't you speak to that?
Yeah, video is important. It's a vital part of the decision-making process when it comes, especially on big items. When you talk about a mortgage, that's a 30-year commitment. The house is the most expensive thing you'll probably ever buy. And so you really want to know what you're doing. And so we offer educational material, whether it's our 60-second mortgage tips, which is just literally 60 seconds. Here's a tip, whether it's how to do a sill plate replacement, or it's how to use a certain mortgage product, or it's how to get ready for fall, whatever it is, they're all very concise and to the point.
Fall is here, so time to put away those yard tools, right? Not so fast. I'm Dan Moyle with Amerifirst Home Mortgage, and this is your 60-second mortgage tip. So fall is actually a great time to get your yard ready for the spring. During the winter months, that grass sits dormant, at least in the Midwest and northern part of our state.
And then at the end of it, we always say, if you want to learn more, click below and blah, blah, blah. But then our other videos are typically quite interview-based, and those tend to be very popular. We have several experts within the company that are willing and able to sit down and talk with me. We've then created from there also some kind of news stories. You know, when you watch the evening news, they do news packages. So the reporter stands up and says, "I'm at the scene of the accident, blah blah blah," and then they go to sound bites with witnesses or whomever. And so we've begun to use that quite a bit as well, as to say, okay, in the housing market, you're hearing, you know, that down payments are so important. Well, are they really? And we, you know, dig deeper into it, this kind of thing. So our video is always very aimed at being very helpful, concise, and engaging. But even as I say concise, they don't have to necessarily be concise. Our most popular video is 12 minutes long. So video is very important.
Yeah, kind of like this episode. So, all right, now, Mike, I know you've had your hand in this, but let's talk about the nurturing strategy that you guys have developed for Amerifirst Home Mortgage.
Sure. Yeah, and one of the things, it's actually interesting. I was thinking about the concept of the funnel and moving them through users through the funnel as we nurture them through the funnel. When we were talking about video as well. So thinking about the goal of a specific video, it can exist in a top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, or bottom of the funnel. We want to make sure that as we're nurturing them, whether it be video content, ebook content, white paper content, it's always serving a certain purpose, and that is to take them to the next step in the funnel. So the way that we've approached it with Dan is thinking about the 3 stages, not just top, middle, bottom, but thinking about it in terms of awareness, consideration, and decision stage. So in the awareness stage, people are still exploring what their options are even. They know that they want to make a change in their living situation, and they're trying to figure out what's available to them. In the consideration stage, they're starting to narrow it down and figure out who those specific players are. At the decision stage, they're making their final decision between going through Amerifirst or one of their competitors.
Right.
So what we try to do is recognize where each user is in that funnel based on what content they have consumed so far, and then provide them with the next stage's content to try and help move them through the funnel.
Mike and Dan, what I really like about that strategy is that oftentimes we associate that nurturing strategy with business-to-business marketing. And in this case, it's with business-to-consumer, and it's being applied in a very sophisticated manner. Dan, can you quickly comment maybe on some of the stats, some of the growth that you've seen, to the extent that you don't want to tell all your competition maybe all the secrets, but what can you share with our viewers and listeners in terms of the results that you've been experiencing on your social business journey?
Yeah, it's helped us increase our web traffic tremendously. We went from like 3,000 views a month up to 60,000 views a month at one point. We're sitting around, I think, 40,000 right now. But and those views aren't just they hit us and they bounce. We can then convert those views into leads, and that's helping a lot. We're sending a lot of leads into the system. We've seen our regular readership of our blog go from 0, because we didn't have one, to over I think 1,300 now. So it's and again, those blog readers are seeing our articles every single day and then sharing them. And I can see that because our email traffic conversion has gone up over the last year. So it's, our numbers have really skyrocketed. And our social, I mean, we've got an audience on social media of 200 on YouTube, almost 2,000 on Twitter, several hundred on Facebook. LinkedIn has grown to over 400 for our company page. Our Pinterest one that I'm really proud of is I think around 3,300 right now on Pinterest. So our audience has grown quite a bit, and they click through, which is awesome. So.
And one of the things that I think has helped that audience to grow and maintain the audience as they come into the funnel is that the content that Dan provides in the blog, in his ebooks, in his video, it's all helpful content. And one of the things that I think we've accepted in the B2B world, but that I find most businesses are having a harder time on the B2C world, is not moving directly to the close. That old model from made famous in Glengarry Glen Ross,
right.
The ABC, always be closing. Right. We've really moved to more of a model of always be helping. And that's what a lot of Dan's content does, and that's what the best performing content does. And so when he's sending these emails, these very helpful emails to the prospects, essentially, they're more likely to continue opening emails from him if they've been helpful in the past.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, our email unsubscribe rate's very, very low. So,
what advice would you like to give to those that are watching anywhere from around the world who are maybe early in their social business journey?
be helpful, as Mike said. Just be very helpful. Get that support from the top that you want to help customers, and just continue to be helpful. That's my biggest thing.
Terrific, terrific. Okay, well, Mike, it is now time for the SBP, but before we get to the SBP, I'm going to put you on the spot because we didn't plan this, but I know, Dan knows, that you're a singer. So come on, give us a little sample.
Just because you're who you are, Bernie, and just because you were so nice to invite me onto your show, I'll give you a little sample.
You're awesome. You're awesome. Like I said, you are more than an inbound marketing social business dude. You are truly talented. Well, Mike, it is now time for the SBP, the Social Business Promo. This is where you can share a relevant and juicy offer for our viewers and listeners that will help them advance their social business journey. Take it away, Mike.
Thanks, Bernie. So the offer that I'd like to present today is an ebook by the marketing team here at HubSpot. Some of you may be familiar with HubSpot, some of you may not, but we have a ferocious content creating team. And the ebook talks about how you can turn your own company into a content creation team. As we've talked about before, content is king. Content is the driving force behind all of the things that we've talked about today. So the ebook is How HubSpot Does Inbound, Creating a Content Machine. And you can check that out at offers.hubspot.com/SBE show.
Terrific, Mike. And of course, we'll include a link to that in our show notes. Obviously, the viewers can see that link on screen as well. Once again, that's offers.hubspot.com/SBE show. Now, before we close out this episode of the Social Business Engine, I have my own SBP. Each episode of the Social Business Engine is hosted on our YouTube channel, appropriately named Social Business Engine. I invite you to subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss an episode. If you want to receive weekly updates by email on social business best practices and related stories, subscribe by email by going to thesocialbusinessengine.com. And remember, if you want to consume our content on your smartphone in audio format, you can subscribe to the podcast version of Social Business Engine on iTunes and Stitcher. Just search for, you guessed it, Social Business Engine or my name, Bernie Borges. Well, that does it for episode number 3. I want to thank Dan Moyle from Amerifirst Home Mortgage for inspiring us, and Mike Lemire from HubSpot for also inspiring us and entertaining us a little bit too, and for sponsoring this episode. I always welcome your feedback on the show. Tweet us at SBEngine, or tweet me at Bernie Borges, or send me a comment through thesocialbusinessengine.com. Until next time, I wish you continued success on your social business journey. This is Bernie Borges saying so long for now.